Recording in progress.
Okay, so welcome to today's Think Differently, where we're talking about being an independent person. And I'm laughing because my partner just arrived home. The neighbor's dog is barking, like, of course, like as soon as we press record, like all hell breaks loose. And we're about to have a huge rainstorm. So let me know if the audio doesn't come through, or I might have to yell. Anyway, that is how it is. We're just gonna roll with it. So first off, what I want to just quickly say about being an independent person is just to start off with, if it's not already clear to you in your brain, or if you've been told otherwise, I know that I came into this world a crazily high independent person. And my parents joke that one of the very first phrases that I ever learned was, "I do it myself," and they thought it was so funny and so precious and as my mom says, and so you were, and there you went and became as a person. And so it's very much a part of who I am. I'm sure it also was a little bit of nurture as well, and all the things. But the most important thing I want to say before we even start, and then I have some logistics and housekeeping, is that being an independent person, I think, is absolutely a superpower. It's absolutely a trait, whether it's learned, nature, nurture, etc. It's absolutely something that a lot of us have, and I think we are generally attracted to entrepreneurship. If you're not an independent person, it does not mean you can't be a good entrepreneur, and I just want to say that out loud. But I also want to say that this is a gift and this is something to work with, because one, part of what we're going to talk about today is how to let that be a superpower but not let it get in your own way, right? Anything positive and great about us can also be our, Shakespearean fatal flaw. And so I just want to first off the bat say, I think this is a really, really, really good thing. It's just how do we harness our powers for good, for ourselves and others. But also because I don't know about you, but I have been told over the years, maybe because I've almost always been in some sort of personal development space, whether I'm a psychology major and I've applied behavioral science master's degree. And so I've always been in this world, and I have had coaches tell me that I'm too independent, and that's something that I need to work on. And so again, my perspective is okay, great, yes, anything can get in our own way, and I do see that, but I just want to be very clear that I do not agree with that. And I do think at some level there's a little bit of misinformation out in the world around that. And I think some of it is very honest and good in the sense that like caveman brain, right? We are wired for connection. Literally, if you are by yourself as a cave person, you might be literally in danger. They worked together. Somebody did the food, prep, and somebody did the hunter gathering. There were roles and responsibilities, and somebody was looking out while you were in the cave sleeping. And so if we just look at it from that very primal example of where we've evolved from, yes, I do not think we are all just meant to effing do every single thing by ourselves. And so all of that is to say, so many things with Think Differently is my intention is not for you to swing the pendulum to one version of the extreme or to the other, right? And so for those coaches who told me that was something I needed to work on, let's just reframe that as yes, we always want to find whatever is appropriately healthy balance of anything that's working for us. And frankly, I had to work through even that was damaging for me, because then I had to go back to wait, I actually think this is a good thing about me. Do I need to second guess myself? And that just was not helpful and supportive. And so, and I share that because I've heard other people tell me they had a similar piece of feedback coming from someone in the personal development space with very, very, very good intentions. And again, I think it's mostly about just reframing for healthy balance, right? They maybe weren't wrong, but maybe it was just the way I received that information. And so just to give everybody credit, but we're never ever going, in my world, we're never ever going to be blaming, shaming, judging ourselves. We're always going to be seeking to understand and find healthy approaches to things. Okay. That said, now you know if you want to keep listening. That said, I do these events every single Thursday at this time, except for the fourth Thursday of the month. At this time, we have Real Connections, which is my free networking events. So you can always catch me here. Sign up as far in advance as you like. I think right now we have events scheduled on the link, and I'm just going to put it in the chat for those of you who are live. And then if you're joining on the replay, you should see all those links in the email that gave you that sent you the replay. So feel free to join us now through the end of the year. Every single 3 Thursdays a month, I go live and share nuggets. And feel free to also ask questions as we go, ask questions, reply back to the email with the replay and tell me what questions, what didn't land, what did land, what was your big aha, what topics do you want me to cover in the future. Even from just questions that people ask, those are helping me create future future topics for these events. So know that anytime you do reach back out, you're paying that forward for other people too, and it helps me too. For this month, for every time that you join us live, you get entered to win a free mini session. So that is also true for you if usually those are one per person ever. But I'm waiving that because I want people to be able to join live and I want to not have to pull you out of the hat when I draw names. So if you've had a session before, you can totally win another session because this is a drawing. So for every time you show up live this month, you'll get entered to win another time. And then I'll draw the names at the end of the month. I might do it again next month too, giving you a little heads up. Oh, and if you're live, you will get an email either later today or tomorrow with a link to the replay. I forgot there was a mistake in the way that I do my work last week, and I forgot to get the email out to everybody last week. So if you signed up last week, don't worry, it's coming. I'm probably going to send them straight off the bat right after each other, and apologize for blowing up your email in advance. So those are coming, and I apologize for that. And then finally, I have one more coaching spot available for this year if you're interested in working with me either in a 6-month coaching partnership. And then I also have a 2-week intensive, which is a really great bridge if you're like, I just need a plan to get me to the end of the year or get me launched for January. That's a great thing to use the 2-week intensive for. It's also a great thing to do if you've never worked with me before, because as much as I will dive in with a 6-month partnership if I feel that it's appropriate and the person feels that it's a good match, sometimes those 2-week intensive just gives everybody a chance to go, yeah, okay, I'm in. And if not, it stands alone and it serves. And so I've got 1 spot left for this year, regardless of whether that's a 2-week or a 6-month. I have 1 spot left. I think it really will be the 1 spot. There's a tiny chance I might open up a chance to kick off in December. But right now it's 1 spot. And then I'm looking at, you can also reserve now spots starting in January or even February. So if you're a planner, a header, I support that. And all you got to do is just hop on a free call with me. We'll talk about it. You don't have to decide on the call, all the things. I believe in really much. I very much believe in good fit. And so if I don't think I'm the best person to help you, A, I probably know who is, and I'm not afraid to refer people to other coaches that are in my network. But B, I'm just very honest. Like, I don't make offers to people that I don't think I can help, or I don't think that we have what we need to be able to succeed. And so I kind of look at it like a first date, right? Like, it's just, hey, what do we need to talk about? So no pressure to make decisions on that call. And again, if you're planning ahead or you're thinking ahead to next year, now-ish is also a really good time to just have that initial conversation so that you can be thinking about things, and we could look at something for next year. Okay. So a couple of quick stories. Number one, I shared in my email for this event that a couple of years ago-ish, I started feeling isolated in my work, and I wasn't sure why, and I started experiencing a few symptoms of burnout. And today's not about burnout, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I'm going to just fast forward and tell you the answer to that story, which was I had a lot of support in my business, both from the perspective of a team. I had a business coach, who is my business coach today. I had a very stable and solid partnership with my romantic partner, who is still my partner today. I had a lot of the things that we think we need, and I did need, and they did support me. They were doing their jobs. And so I was like, why in the world do I feel isolated? Why does something feel off with the work? And luckily, I realized very quickly that it wasn't coaching itself that was the problem, but that, as they say, is very lonely at the top. And I did not have, my favorite thing for my corporate career was operating in a team. I was really good at working as a team. I'm also really good at working by myself. I am a part introvert and part extrovert, maybe 50-50 if you had to measure it. And so I really thrive with both. And so the introvert in me is like, yeah, man, this is my business. I'm an independent person. Like, I like to run this shit the way I want to do it. Like, that all really works for me and my personality. And yet, what I realized was missing, and it took me quite some time to figure this out, was I was missing peers. And as much support as I got from my business coach, she's not really my peer. She kind of is. You could argue that. But we just have a different relationship and, frankly, purpose to our relationship. And so what I really needed was some water cooler talk, right? Like that I used to get in corporate, or to like go out to lunch with a colleague. And I just didn't. I had a really large network, but I didn't have close colleagues that I felt I could just call and be like, okay, I'm having an entrepreneurial day. Can you talk me through it? And so I created that for myself. One, I started seeking out the people I already had. But two, I then created these, as I said at the beginning, these networking events. That was almost 2 years ago now. We're coming up on almost 2 years. Yes, it's a really good business strategy, and I could talk about that for another day. But what I needed was I needed more interaction with my peers for me to feel good in my work and in my life. And that was a different box to check than friends, partner, business coach, family, team members that report to me, right? It's a different box. And so if that is at all resonating with you, maybe that's one thing that you can take away. The other story that I want to share is about, I posted that, or I shared this also via email recently, that August, was it August? Let me check my notes. August was my biggest cash month of 2024. And then right after that, September was my biggest cash month ever in 7 years of business. And I put an email out basically saying, guess what I did as soon as I finished celebrating that, guess what I did? What was the very next thing I did? I reached out to my business coach like a month or two early, and I was like, I'm just gonna tell you now I'm ready to renew. Can you please send me the contract? Because I just feel so good being supported. And I also know that to create one level of success, like to have a pop month, this isn't really a pop month, but to have a pop month is one thing, and it's huge, and I celebrated the crap out of it, and that's not what I'm trying to say here. But to sustain it, this isn't just a pop month for me. I'm holding more clients at once than I have in the past. I am doing things differently. I have expanded. I have strategically set my business up for these new clients to come in for, like, if I can just say this out loud, like, I planned that I would have a big month. Like, I didn't just make it up and get lucky. And I did that with a lot of strategy and a lot of support. And so the last thing I want to do is tell myself, like, okay, I'm good. We got the diploma, I'm out the door, right? No, I want to actually keep what I have and grow from here. And I find that every new level that my clients reach and every new level that I reach in business, it is just so much easier to sustain if you know the exact support that you need, whether that's team members that report to you, whether that's hiring an expert, whether that's having a coach. It's just the thing that makes success easier to hold. And it's also my personal belief that, have you ever noticed that, like, actors are really good at this, but like there's a lot of famous people that have friends that are famous people, right? And I think, okay, on the one hand, that's because they walk in the same circles and that's just like naturally going to happen. But I also think that for a lot of them, they need people who freaking get what they're doing. Being alone in the journey is for the birds. I'm sorry, it just is. I don't really know what that phrase means, by the way. It's not worth it. It's not fun. And I'm doing this to have fun and to make a difference and to make money and to have, I'm doing this for a lot of different reasons. I'm not doing this to burn myself out again. I already did that in my corporate career and I learned too much from that. So Point being, oh, and the other thing, I was listening to like a Jennifer Aniston interview the other day, and she was talking about how she's working with an acting coach on her next movie. And I was like, thank you, right? That chick is like one of the best actresses out there. She doesn't need a coach, right? Like, no, it's not about that. It's not about she has a problem. It's about how can she just keep growing in her craft. And this isn't intended to be like a you need to hire a coach manifesto. It's a you need something that supports you at any given point in time. And it's about looking at that more in a more well-rounded way so that you get what you need. Because if you are like me, already wired to be uber independent, you're more likely to go, I got it. I can totally do that by myself. And in many cases, if you can just go, I'm probably a little bit wrong, right, in that way, or I'm probably a little overestimating is maybe a nicer way to say what I can and should do by myself, I know that I'm more likely to be like, oh yeah, I got it. And it just makes me go, not second guess myself, but it just makes me remember that that's a place where I get to check myself a little bit and go, yeah, but you know what? It actually feels so good to get support on stuff that I don't need to be doing. Okay. So a couple of quick things. Number one, nobody who's successful is an island. I don't know anybody, no matter how you define success for yourself. And I hope that you do define success for yourself. We talked about that in a recent event, that we do need to define success for ourselves. Topic for another day. And again, the goal isn't to be independent, uber independent extreme, and the goal isn't to be dependent and just delegate everything in your business. It's not about that. It's about finding a healthy, happy medium and having the support, the partnerships in your life. I literally call my coaching partnership a partnership for a reason. Having those in your life, in your business, when and where you need them, so that you can be approaching your independence from a healthy way and letting it thrive instead of letting it wear you out. And then the other piece I want to say about independence, and we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, is if we can buy into the fact that it's a superpower and that it's one of your greatest gifts and all the blah, blah, great things that we can say about it. I would also say, if you've never read the Gay Hendricks book about your genius zone, I find that to be incredibly helpful in terms of understanding how we're really good at certain things and less good at other things, all of us. And Gay Hendricks, just the quick, cliff notes of that book is that the more time we can set ourselves and our businesses and our lives up to spend more time in our zone of genius, the happier we are, the more successful we are, the more productive we are, the more our relationships around us thrive, because we are in that zone of genius. And this isn't, again, I'm not suggesting that you need to delegate everything out in your business. But if we say that your independent nature is like an element of your zone of genius, and I would like to suggest that it is, then our goal is to find ways to really harness that so that we can use it for good, right? So that we can use it to the best of our ability, but not let it tip the scales into getting in our own way. And so I'm going to talk about a few examples of that. So first off, are there any questions, comments, anything before I keep going from those of you who are live? And I'm just going to do one quick thing with my view, because there we go. Okay, because I want to be able to see my notes better. Okay, so I kind of have two things of three to talk about. So first off, here's a couple of ways that I see this sort of independent thing playing out. This is not the only ways that it plays out. It's just some common ones that I've seen. So if this is an interesting topic to you and you want to hear more, place your vote and we can keep talking about it more past today. Okay, so one way that I see this playing out is a little bit, I think more obvious than not, which is from a mindset perspective. Sometimes what we do, and I already mentioned this a little bit about myself, is that we basically just do too much ourselves, right? So in the business, that could look like not delegating to a team member when it's appropriate for the business and you have the money and you have the setup and structure and support to when it's time to hire. Let's just say it that way. when it's time to hire, if you're not hiring, or if you have a team member that supports you and you're not leaning into that support or leaning into it the way that you could, it means that you're just doing too much by yourself. So from a practical perspective, obviously that can burn you out. But what I find from a mindset perspective is that like, no, it's fine. I can just do it myself. Yeah, you can. But is that going to put you in a space of thriving? Because when you just do it all by yourself, that alone is isolating. And we know from science that if we're wired for connection, and if we have a lot on our plate, and I'm just going to have to bear down and do it all myself, whether that's from a work perspective or an emotional perspective, do not underestimate how much energy and emotion it takes to hold one element of your business. Right? Decision fatigue, task switching, all of these things are real. And then there's an emotional, energetic component to all the things that you are responsible for. And holding it all is not fun. And that leads to isolation. And science tells us that isolation is one of the primary causes of burnout. The other thing that it does is it puts you in a space of making too many decisions or holding too much energetically. Then it gets very practical in terms of you're probably not making the best strategic, clear-headed decisions that you could. Right? You're probably not, if you're holding all and doing it all and not getting support and it's ongoing and and because of that, you're now feeling isolated, it's hard to make good decisions. You could maybe say you're making bad decisions, right? Like it's also hard to execute. So even if you've made good decisions and you're just trying to execute on those decisions, it's really hard to keep executing when you're just doing all of it by yourself. Okay, and then so that's number one. And then from a practical, very strategic standpoint, again, it's like if I'm doing too much, then it's not efficient. I'm not spending more time in my zone of genius. I'm not maximizing my genius and my skills and my potential, right? Like I can't serve more clients and grow my business anymore past this if I don't have support or take something off my plate in order to free up that time. Like at some point, it's just very simple and practical. And what I find when clients have reached some level of success, right? So whether you've just started and you've just got like one client or 3 clients or whatever it is that you're doing, the equivalent if you have like a product-based business. So you've gotten like some traction. Or if you've reached a point where you've filled your filled your roster of clients, or you're fully booked and you're full. Even if, like me, I'm still booking for January, but like full for this month. Oftentimes, we can't even sustain that level until or unless we have that support. Like sometimes that peak of holding clients and stuff and work is not long-term sustainable. Never mind then if you want to take it from there and grow it more, right? So whether you're in the startup early phases, whether you're somewhere in the middle of just working through holding what you have and keeping that running and sustainable, or whether you're taking something that's working well and wanting to grow it more, it doesn't really matter. It kind of I find that like every time a client hits this new point, we're looking again at, is the back end of your business efficient and operational? Is it strategic? Is it sustainable? Is it streamlined? What's happening? Who's doing what? Are we spending money on team in the right way, right? Just throwing money and team at stuff does not mean that you're being efficient, right? And sometimes that's what we have to do. Like, okay, well, what got us here was throwing team at it. Okay, great. How do we make that more efficient before we then try to grow it further? Right? And that efficiency can give you that sustainable, like that long-term sustainable piece. And so again, this is the more like strategic and practical of like, if I'm so independent that I won't let other people help in your business as an example, you're kind of just gonna stay where you are. And even to stay where you are might just feel like a hamster in a wheel, might feel hard, oftentimes feels hard. And this one's interesting because I would like to suggest, this is my own belief, I need a good way to refer to this, so bear with me. I'm going to just try to explain it. But this is something that I've been working on for several years for myself. And this is this belief that I would like to brainwash you with, because I just think it's helpful. And that is that when you do learn to lean into the support you have, again, I'm using like hiring somebody on your team as an example, but it doesn't have to be this, right? It's any level of support, leaning into what you already have. When you do lean into that and you get better at that, because let's be honest, a lot of this is about learning how to trust other people. It's about learning how to onboard somebody on your team. That is a skill that can be learned. Like most people just hire somebody and like, okay, why aren't they doing it great? You know, there's a whole process there. But once you, like, let's use an example of hiring a VA. So let's say you hire a VA, you onboard them, you learn how to delegate, you work on your trust, you learn that they're good, and so then you feel like you can give them more stuff, right? When you lean into that, right, which for those of us who are independent, it's like, oh my God, I'm asking for help. Like, what does that mean about me? Or, I mean, I could do what she's doing. So shouldn't I? You know? And so all of those things, but when you really decide to work on that, when you decide to lean in, the interesting, ironic thing that I think happens is that you're actually more independent if you choose to, and this is like, so leaning in to get more help actually makes you more independent, is my quick and dirty. And what I mean by that is when you get that help, you free up your time, my friend, right? You free up your time to go back to that piece we talked about, to spend more time in your zone of genius, which feels very freeing and makes you feel like you're doing the work you're meant to do, which most of us who are independent really have a very high value of a sense of freedom, right? It doesn't matter what freedom is, it's your sense of freedom, right? You can be free as a bird, but feel chained up. And so when you feel free, right? So in this case, you free up your time, then your mindset gets to catch up and be like, oh, actually, when I just delegate well and learn how to work with hiring someone, I have extra space to be me and do my thing independently in my zone of genius because that's where I want to do and it feels good and free. And so again, I need to come up with a better way to say this, but it's like when you do lean into getting that support, when you do, like, dare I say depend, and let's not say depend, rely on someone else. You can rely on other people. Other people are reliable. The ironic thing is you will feel more free. So I just want to throw that out there in case that's helpful. Because I think that's a little bit of that's where the mindset game is, right? To get your brain around. Is it safe? I'm not going to be free if I do this. Okay, and then the other way that I see independence playing out a little bit too hard in my entrepreneurial friends, clients, and colleagues, and myself. Number 3 is when it has to do with erring on the side of things like perfectionism and wanting to control. Because probably you've been disappointed by people in your past. And like if you're a human being, I think that's everybody. Somebody's disappointed you for sure, right? And maybe somebody's disappointed you at work, which just then furthers that thought process of like, I can't trust anyone. Nobody can do it as good as I can. And therefore I need to control the situation if I hire someone. And they need to be perfect so that I can feel better. Or I really can't trust anyone anyway. And so that perfectionism, control, trust thing really can get in our own way. And so if that is striking a chord or you're feeling that in your body as I'm saying it, like that is a place to do some mindset work around. If you want a coach to help you with that, that is one of my favorite things to help clients with because I think that space is so ripe with opportunity to practice in your business of letting it not be perfect. I know that's like blasphemous, but like really and truly, we have such opportunities to practice that and to practice leaning into getting help and to learning. Because most of the time, if you're hiring somebody that is doing work that's not in your zone of genius, the truth is once they're onboarded, if they're the right person, they will actually do it better than you. Yeah. And again, this doesn't have to be about hiring, but I just think it's such a great example to latch onto. Whatever is going on in your business that makes you feel like you can't ask for help, or you can't, or you have to do it all yourself. All of these things apply. Okay, questions, comments? Oh, I think there's a comment in here I didn't answer. Okay, how do you manage it when you're not, yeah, okay, so how do you manage it when you're not at the stage of having team members? So we're getting to that. Great question. And so in a minute, let me know if I answered you. So these are the 3 ways that I feel like it plays out. Again, like from a mindset perspective of just doing too much yourself leads to isolation, which can lead to burnout, not operating effectively, not making good decisions. That's one mindset piece. The third piece we talked about was also a mindset piece: perfectionism, control, trust. Trust, I think, is what is usually underneath the perfectionism and the control, right? Where it just feels like, yeah, if I want something done right, I have to do it myself. And getting out of that mindset, or even stepping this far out of that mindset, can be so freeing. Because it is a lot to hold. Again, it's back to the energetic holding and the emotional holding. We are all holding our businesses. Unless you are a co-founder, you're still holding it. And so the more that you can get the support to hold that, the better. Whether that's practically delegating, or hiring a coach, or leaning into your support, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And then the third piece, just to summarize, is that more strategic and practical. Like, if you want to take it to the next level or maintain the level that you have, that delegation, that more time in your zone of genius, that more time being an independent person and really thriving in that space will support you, which is where we went to say, like, if you can delegate, you actually get to feel more free. And I think one of the ways, I'm just going to skip to answering this question. One of the ways that you can operate in a more strategic and practical way and be more in your zone of genius if you don't have a team member is you can stop doing so many things. And I know that that's really annoying, because as entrepreneurs, we do have a lot of things on our plate, no matter what. But what I find most business owners doing, and especially most business owners doing before they hire, is they're spread very thin. They're trying to master Instagram with LinkedIn and TikTok and Pinterest and doing webinars and signing up for summits and speaking events. And I'm not saying you can't do all those things. And I think sometimes it's great to survey them all and see where you fit. But when you have so many, you're spread so thin, it's just, it's actually not very strategic and practical at that phase. I really recommend like narrowing that down. But it also then puts you in that place of holding without support. And so I often like to say, like, if you like this platform, but you don't have the skills yet for it, and this platform over here is doing better for you, focus over here, stick this on your later list when you have more support, as an example. So it may just be about doing less better for now, and then letting that support be when you have the money to do the next thing, letting that support come in as a practical example. Okay, so number one of what do you do? One is, this is really annoying because I hate it when somebody says, like, I'm working on this, and you're like, okay, well, just do it, right? So but I'm gonna say it anyway. So if you're independent to a fault, how do you stay independent and get help? You freaking ask for help. Like, that's it. Again, that's really annoying advice, and I know that. But here's the way that I want to say that getting help piece. Ease in gradually. So if you can make a 1% change in asking for help, you've won. Because when your brain, from a mindset perspective, when your brain has practical evidence that it was okay and safe to ask for help, it's more likely to be able to do it again. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy the second time. But so often we're like, okay, I'm really bad at asking for help. Let me go hire 3 people, right? And we're like, okay, I'm going to bear down and do this. And then we'll swing the pendulum the other way. And then, holy crap, I can't hold it, right? Or I don't know how to hire. So I did that sort of haphazardly, and then I brought on the wrong person. And then I hired somebody I actually can't trust, so now I have this evidence that I can't trust people. And then it just perpetuates, right? So ask for help, but do it tiny, 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 tiny baby steps. So that could be leaning into just, if you have a partner at home, if you have a best friend, like, it doesn't have to be related to business. Where can you just ask for this much more support? And it could literally be like, sometimes when I'm working on this, I'll be like, okay, who is a good person to talk about what's going on with me right now? And I'll just like in my head survey my friends, and I'll be like, oh yeah. And I'll reach out to that friend and be like, I would really love to talk to you. I'm doing some stuff that I feel like you can understand. And I've set up a phone call. That's one person. That's me leaning in to get support. It's really also just me catching up with a friend, right? Like, it doesn't have to be so. It doesn't have to be like I need a favor and can you come to my house? It could be. That's another great thing to do. But it can also just be support in any way, shape, or form. Again, because if I'm working on relieving my isolation, that connection is what I need. If you're working on not having too many things going on in the business, then delegation might be what you need, as an example. So ask for help, but do it gradually. 1% change is change. And sometimes that's a lot easier of a pill to swallow. And it helps you learn to trust. You can't just go from not trusting other people to trusting people, right? And so not asking yourself to like get it right and be perfect, especially if you're a perfectionist and this is not something you can control freak your way into, and it's not something you can be perfect at. But these are skills and things that you can learn. I'm shedding. Okay, so number 1, ask for help, but do it in small ways. Number 2, I kind of alluded to this with I'm going to survey my friends in my brain and sort of think about who I'm going to reach out to. But number 2 is really important because I have had a lot of clients come to me and say mainly to hire me to help them with delegating, with hiring, with firing, with all the team elements of things. And what I see a lot of people kind of get PTSD around, or have bad experiences, I should say, around, is they've hired and they've had a bad experience. And so number 1, you can learn hiring and figuring that process out is something you can learn. But if you've never done it before, you're gonna make some mistakes. And like, again, letting yourself have that grace and space around that. But my number 2 here is not just leaning in and asking for help and doing it small, but taking the intention, how do I want to say this? Setting the intention that not only are you going to ask for help, but that you can trust yourself to know who to ask for help. That discernment piece is everything. Because I don't know about you, but when I started my business, I didn't have anybody that was in my network at the time that was running a business. And so people thought I was a little bit crazy. And so to reach out to somebody who, as Brené Brown would say, is not in the arena, and no judgment, like I don't think entrepreneurship is for everyone, but if you're venturing into something and then you ask for support from someone who does not get it, some people are, I think of my best friend for this example. She's not an entrepreneur, and like she just understands me, and so it doesn't matter what I'm doing. She doesn't need to understand it. She just already understands me, and so she's always giving me good advice. But most people are not her. Sorry. And so when we really take that intention, so if you're gonna start small, okay, I'm gonna start small. Where's a place I can practice leaning in and getting support? That's number 1. Do it from a person that's already safe, right? We don't need to go out of the gate and ask a stranger for help unless that feels good to you. But that's starting small. And then within that starting small, can I trust myself? Let's build that evidence that you can trust yourself to decide who to ask for help. Because nothing feels worse than it makes me want to cry, like when you ask for help from someone who just can't do it. They're just not capable. They don't understand. And let's not ask everyone to be able to understand this crazy venture that we're in, right? It's not for everyone. And so we don't need them to understand it. But when we do want to reach in and ask for help or support or just somebody to listen. Again, whatever help means for you in that moment, whatever help would be helpful. Sometimes you just want to be like, can you just listen to me vent? Right? But then being very discerning about who is the best person to do that on the other line, right? And so I have a long-term client, when she was first starting out and like making her first few sales, her mom would always check in and be like, so how are you doing? How much money have you made? And it just became this like, I can't. Like we actually decided that she was gonna sort of change what she shared with her mom and do it more strategically so that when she was feeling vulnerable, she wasn't like then put in the position of like, I haven't made any more money yet. And that just didn't feel good to her. And her mom was actually very supportive, but she didn't know how to support her in this moment, right? And so it just and so we made a strategy of like how she's gonna work with her mother around that in that phase. So again, it could be that simple. It doesn't have to be exactly business related, but learning and setting the intention and then working on that skill of discernment also helps you learn that you can trust, right? So it's like you're not trying to run out of the gate and ask anybody on the street for help. We're slowly moving in gradually. We're going to do it small. We're going to start with a space that's already safe. And we're going to set that intention that we can discern who the right person is, which simply can just be, like I said, when I was like, ooh, I'm struggling with this, it'd be nice to have somebody to talk to sit and think about, of all the friends that I have, who would be a good person. That's the discernment. So it could just be adding that one, asking yourself that question of like, who's the best person to help me with this right now? That's discernment. And then that also, again, helps you build the self-trust that it's also okay to do this. So all of this is towards building your evidence and building your skills. Because that's really what we need. We need the action. We need to see how it goes. We need the mindset of what success is, right? So it doesn't have to be this big thing. It can just be something small. Then we can get success. Then we have evidence that we are discerning. We have evidence that it wasn't so crazy to ask for help, right? It doesn't mean it's going to feel good. And then we're learning along the way. We're letting ourselves learn. Asking someone who's in the arena, I already said that. This is something that you can learn. You will make mistakes, but you will learn from them, and that's part of the process, just like learning how to walk, right? These little toddlers, like they don't learn how to walk by just getting it perfect, right? They have to also fall, and that teaches them how to stay up, right? And so you might have a little toddle. You might have you might fall down for a minute, but it's okay because you started small, you learned something, and you take it from there. And then I had one more thing to say about discernment. Oh, so discernment from a hiring perspective, back to using that because I just think this is a very simple, easy example to grasp onto is, let's say you're struggling in your business. Who do you need to hire? I think I'm going to do a topic on this in the future, so stay tuned. But as an example, you could be struggling in your business and just have too much on your plate, and hiring a VA or an OBM, for example, would really sort of be the discerning factor of solving the actual problem that you have, right? Or you could be struggling with what's going on in your business and not even know what the problem is that you have. And so maybe you hire a coach to help you figure out what's going on in the business and what actually support you need. Because maybe it's just all up here. And maybe the reason you have too much on your plate is what I said earlier, which is just you're simply doing too many things for one person or too many things for whatever capacity size business you have. And so that could just be a mindset and a strategy change. And then maybe your existing team is enough, or maybe you by yourself is enough, right, to do that work. And so again, we can't solve that problem today, but again, if you're looking to hire or you're thinking of getting support, one of the things that I always ask is, do you know like where in the business is the problem? And then that gets to be then go hire an expert for that, right? So sometimes, again, you could hire me to help you find out what the thing is, right? And then take it from there. Maybe you need a VA, maybe you don't, right? Or you don't want to hire me if you just need an extra set of hands in your business. I am not going to go write your social media posts, right? So, but if you don't know, then getting someone, or maybe you know it's in marketing, but you don't know what the problem is in marketing, then you want to hire a marketing expert, or consultant or whatever, right? Or a business coach with a marketing degree or expertise. So that discernment of the who across the board will help you. And again, it can also just build that evidence of like, I know what to do. I can start small, I can build that evidence, and I can be discerning. Okay, and then the final piece is creating support in any way that you can to get the balance that you need in a holistic way. So I talked in the very beginning about my example. And this is also a little bit of an answer to the question of what do you do if you don't have a team yet? How do you apply this? If you're feeling like it's all on you, hiring out, whether it's a coach or a VA, those are my favorite examples, may or may not be right for you in your business right now. And so if it's not, and you literally are the only person working in your business, period, lean into the support you already have. Your romantic partner, your pets, your friends, colleagues. If you do not have a community or you do not know a lot of entrepreneurs, please come to Real Connections next Thursday, where it's like a whole group of people who get it. That is nervous system regulating for us. Also, it's good for business and you can sell your work. But you can create that support, so whether it's peers, a community, checking in with your partner, your friends, the right friends, discernment, choosing the right person to ask. You probably, again, I don't think many people are complete islands. You probably already have support built into your life. And again, back to number one of starting small, like that might just be the best, easiest way. You probably already have something, right? When I didn't have a business coach, I've been in and out of having my own coaches, which is another topic for another day. I think there's moments where it's absolutely right to have a business coach and moments where it's not, and I think all things are great. Sometimes when I didn't have a business coach, but I sort of needed one in that moment, I would ask a friend or a colleague or my partner, can you just sit here and let me talk through some business ideas? And I don't really need you to be an expert or to be my business coach or to know what I'm talking about. But can you just be here so that if I can just talk out loud, sometimes I can come to my own answers. And then I am open to your feedback if you have any thoughts, but then I'm taking that with a grain of salt because this is not a business coach. This may or may not even be an entrepreneur. And so I have to put that in my filter as to whether that is helpful advice. Back to discernment, but I can still ask. And sometimes just having somebody else to bang it through, to talk, to just sit there while you talk is everything. Because it'll just help you process it out. Even if you don't solve the problem, it'll at least get you something and help you not feel crazy. As I like to say, when I work from home, and I'm often here by myself, and sometimes if I'm working on a problem, I'll just notice that I start talking. Like I'll go to the kitchen and start making lunch, and I'll just start talking to myself, right? And like you can call me crazy, but like it freaking works. Sometimes we just need to talk. So if you need that, again, that one baby step direction of just starting small can just be getting somebody that you can talk with. Okay, any questions, comments? And get some outlets outside of work. Please, please, please. I think we all can get a little tunnel vision focus on this work, and I think that's so often a good thing, but I think if you don't have outlets outside of work, maybe that's the support that you're looking for. So let me know. I'm going to check the comments. Did I answer your question, Danae? Okay. I love hosting and attending networking calls to meet people whose zone of genius is in the area that feels like my weakness. Oh yes, like marketing or copywriting, etc. Great to make the connection and learn more about how to get the best support. Yeah. And then their advice when they're not an entrepreneur, get a real job. Oh my God, right? And I've had so many really well-intending people and friends and loved ones like say like, well, I'm just worried about you. I want you to be okay. Like that's what's underneath, right? And my answer is always like, this is absolutely the best thing for me. I'm so happy with it. Even on my worst days, I'm still happy with this decision. This is still the right thing for me. And I think sometimes they don't even need to get it to understand that you've made a good decision and you're good with it, you know? But it's also not for them to understand. It's not for them to validate. It's not for them to agree with, right? And it also may not be then for them to be the person that you reach out to. Discernment, right? For them to be the people that you reach out to. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. This is a big topic of independence, but I think it's really important, and I feel like this time of year, everybody's like driving to the end of the year and like trying to hurry up and get all the things done that they wanted to get done. And I think that just like pulls on our little independent heartstrings of like, no, I can just power through and do it all myself and it's fine. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is fine and sometimes it's not. And so when it doesn't feel fine, just seeing you in that and knowing that this can be your superpower and you just get to find better ways to keep it, keep it in check, keep it in a healthy balance, and to keep using it as your superpower and your zone of genius. Next week, we're talking about if business is feeling meh, I think I said meh, or if you're feeling low about your work right now, maybe this is why. So I find a lot of times people will come to me when they're like, I don't even know what's wrong, but it's not right. And so I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I've seen over the years, like common themes of like maybe just places you can check, right? Like I can't coach every single person one-on-one, but like these are some things that you can look at and do a little self-assessment and say, no, that actually feels good. And like I think sometimes just knowing what's working and what's not wrong can be half the battle. So we'll just talk through a little bit of some of those examples next week. And again, if you have questions, comments, let me know. I will put that into another Think Differently. I'm loving these, so thank you for joining me live. Thank you for joining me on the replay. These are not going anywhere. And if you're looking for a coach, if you're ready to lean into support, if you're ready to find that balance of independence and partnership, I would love to talk to you. So you can just book a discovery call for that. And I'm going to just check one more time. Do you ladies have any questions? Okay. Okay, let me hit stop on the recording here. I will see you next week. No, I will see you in 2 weeks.